Hello viewers, you are welcome once again. We are still under logic, Christ Almighty God's algebra. In our last tutorial, we treated principle of logical implication. Today we are going to treat principle of logical consequence. Principle of logical consequence. Let's start. Principle of logical consequence. P implies P or Q is tautology if and only if P or Q is logical consequence of P. So we have now stated the principle of logical consequence. We said that P implies P or Q is tautology if and only if P or Q is logical consequence of P. So we are going to prove this principle that it is truth. If you look at this principle, you find out that P implies P or Q is tautology. That means this implication P is a proper implication, is a true implication of P or Q. And P or Q is a superset of P. That means it is a true consequence of P. So if that is the case, we say that P or Q, that is the consequence, is a logical consequence. That means it's a true consequence. That means it's a logical consequence. Means that it's a true consequence of P. So let us prove the principle. Proof. Suppose P implies P or Q is tautology. We assume that P implies P or Q is, it is true. And we assume that it is true that P implies P or Q is tautology. From there, we are going to derive that P or Q is logical consequence of P. So if this is true, and it's our hypothesis, since this is true, also this is also true. If and only if P is logical implication of P or Q, by principle of logical implication. In our tutorial, we treated principle of logical implication. Now, since this P implies P or Q is tautology, if it's tautology, We say that P is logical implication of P. So, by principle of logical implication. So, if I haven't gone through our principle of logical implication, go to our last tutorial so you can be acquainted with the principle of logical implication. If and only if P and bracket P or Q is logical implication of P or Q, we substitute this P with P and bracket P or Q because they are logical equivalent. They are logical equivalent. That's why we substitute this P with P and bracket P or Q, being justified by law of absorption. By law of absorption. Being justified by law of absorption. If and only if P and bracket not P or bracket P or Q is logical implication of P or Q. You see that this P and bracket P or Q is being substituted with P and bracket not P or bracket P or Q. So they are logical equivalent. That's why we substitute this with this by second edge case law. By second edge case law, P and bracket P or Q is logically equivalent to P and bracket not P or bracket P or Q, and is still P is equivalent to what? Equivalent to P, and is logical consequence of P or Q. So being justified by second edge case law. If and only if P and bracket P or Q upon P you see that we have transformed this disjunctive statement, this not P or bracket P or Q, that is the disjunctive statement. We have now transformed it to a conditional statement. That means it's equivalent to conditional statement. It is bracket P or Q. If it is bracket P or Q upon P, that means P implies bracket P or Q, and is tautology. tautology and with P is still P. By is still P. So this is being transformed to conditional statement by first Ejike's law, and is still logical implication of P or Q is logical implication of P or Q because it's still equivalent to P, being justified by first Ejike's law. So by first Ejike's law, that will transform this disjunctive statement to conditional statement. If and only if P upon P and bracket P or Q. We are saying that we have distributed this implication P to the first conjunct P. That's why it becomes P upon P. That means P implies P and bracket P or Q. And P implies P is tautology. Tautology and with 8% by that term. That means tautology and P or Q is equal to P or Q. Now it's no more the logical implication of P or Q. Now I say that it is now intensification of P and bracket P or Q upon P. So it's now intensification of P now. But this is equal to P. So you say that it's an intensification of P. So is intensification is intensification of P and bracket P or Q upon P. So it's intensification of this. That's what you know there. P upon P and bracket P or Q is intensification of P and bracket P or Q upon P, being justified by distribution of implication. By distribution of implication. We continue here. If and only if. Now we are going to revise this P upon P, that P implies P, to disjunctive statement. To disjunctive statement. Because it's being generated from, sorry, you're going to transform it, you're going to revise it, yes, to disjunctive statement because it's being generated from disjunctive statement. Like this implication is being generated from disjunctive statement. That means this not P or bracket P or Q. That is where you get this P. So when you want to revise it, it's going to also going to be in disjunctive statement. So we're going to have P or not P and bracket P or Q. It's still the sphere of of P. That means it's still in the sphere of P and bracket P or Q upon P. So is intensification of P and bracket P bracket P or Q upon P. Being justified by first Educat's law, because it's through first Educat's law that we transform this question statement to disjunctive statement. If and only if this P or not P is equivalent to tautology by law of complement. By law of complement is equal to T. So it is T and bracket P or Q. It still is intensification of P and bracket P or Q upon P, being justified by law of complement. Being justified by law of complement. So state P or not P with T by law of complement. We continue. If and only if P or Q is intensification of P and bracket P or Q upon P. You see that this T and bracket P or Q is being substituted with P or Q. So it's not equivalent to P or Q, because when T is AND with any term, it's set as that term. So T AND with P or Q is set as P or Q. So being justified by law of identity. It's by law of identity that we split this T and bracket P or Q with P or Q by law of identity. By law of identity. Then we have now obtained that P or Q is intensification of P and the bracket P or Q upon P. That means this is equivalent to P. And this P or Q is a superset of P. We then conclude that P or Q is logical consequence because it's a true is a true consequence of this P and the bracket P or Q upon P, which is equivalent to P. So we then conclude. Say thus P or Q is logical consequence of P, because this is equivalent to P. So we have, from P implies P or Q histology, we derive that P or Q is logical consequence of P. Then let us prove the converse. Conversely, so we are going to assume that P or Q is logical consequence of P is true. So for there, we don't prove P implies P or Q is tautology. So suppose P or Q is logical consequence of P. So we assume that the statement we suppose that P or Q is logical consequence of P, and it's our hypothesis. So if that is the case, if that is true, also this also must also be true. If and only if P and P or Q, P and P or Q is logical consequence of P. Now, you see that this P is represented with P and the P. Is represented with P and the P by law of idempotent. So you see equivalent to P or Q, and it's logical consequence of P. So we justify by law of idempotent. If and only if, or sorry, it is or the same thing as P. If and only if P or not P and the P. P or not P or Q. We see that we have transformed this we have transformed it to P or bracket not P and the P by second Etiquette law. So by second Etiquette law, this P or P is being transformed, is being substituted with P or bracket not P and the P, because it's still P. So P or Q, and it's still is logical consequence of P, is logical consequence of P, because it's still equivalent to P, being justified by second Etiquette law. Second Etiquette law. Continue to this side. If and only if P or bracket not P upon not P or Q. You see now, it's no more logical consequence of P. It's now tautology. It's now tautology. That means this not P and P has now been transformed to conditional statement by Christ Almighty God's grace. It has been transformed to conditional statement. That means not P upon not P. That is to say, not P implies not P. So this cumulative statement has now been transformed to conditional statement using Christ Almighty God's grace, and is now tautology, because not P implies not P is tautology. Tautology or with any term is sent as tautology. That means tautology or with P is tautology. Tautology also or with Q is tautology. So you say that it is tautology. Is tautology being justified by Christ the Almighty God's grace. If and only if P upon not P or P or Q, we disputed this implication not P to this disjoint P. That's why we have P upon not P. That means not P implies P, or not P. He left this not P is being left alone, because this the its implication has been added to this disjoint. So that's why I have P upon not P, or not P, one in brackets, or Q, and it's still tautology. Is tautology being justified by law, by distribution of implication, by distribution of implication. Being justified is by distribution of implication that is displayed this not P to this disjoint P by distribution of implication. We continue to this side. If and only if bracket P and P or not P, or Q. You see that this not P has now been revised to conjunctive statement because this not P is being generated from conjunctive statement. That's why I revise it to conjunctive statement. So we have P and the P, or not P, or Q, and it's still tautology because this means P and P is P. P or not P is tautology. Tautology or with Q is setting at tautology, so it's still tautology. Is tautology. So being justified by Christ Almighty God's grace. It's through Christ Almighty God's grace that we transform this P upon not P, this conditional statement to conjunctive statement P and the P. So being justified by Christ the Almighty God's grace. If and only if P or not P or Q. So this P and P has now been substituted with P by law of idempotent. It's equivalent to P. That's why I have P or not P or Q, and it's still tautology. Is tautology. Being justified by law of idempotent. If and only if not P or P or Q. We see that you have now interchanged the two disjuncts. P was the first disjunct, while not P was the second disjunct. Now it becomes P, not P becomes first disjunct, and P becomes second disjunct. It's still equivalent to that P or not P. So being justified by law of commutativity. So by law of commutativity, that interchange the conjuncts, and it's still tautology. Is tautology. Being justified by law of commutativity. If and only if not P or bracket P or Q is tautology. You see that you have now associated this P or Q is still equivalent, is still tautology. So we associated this P with this Q. That we have not P or bracket, P or Q by law of associativity, and it's still tautology. Is tautology being justified by law of associativity. We continue to research. If and only if P implies P or Q. You see that this not P or bracket P or Q has now been substituted with P implies P or Q. They are logical equivalent and is still tautology by first edge case law. Substitute not P or bracket P or Q with P implies P or Q and is still tautology. Is tautology being justified by first edge case law. We have now proved P implies P or Q is tautology. We have now proved it. So from P or Q is logical consequence of P. We have now proved that P implies P or Q is tautology. We then conclude. We say thus P implies P or Q is tautology. Now, having proved the converse, we then establish that P implies P or Q is tautology if and only if P or Q is logical consequence of P. So therefore, P implies P or Q is tautology if and only if P or Q is logical consequence of P. So having proved the converse, we then establish that P implies P or Q is tautology if and only if P or Q is logical consequence of P. So we have proved that the principle of logical consequence is true. Principle of logical consequence is true. So at this juncture, we shall draw our curtain. Thank you, viewers.